Hi, this is John Perkins.
And I'm Craig Bell. A lawyer was reading the will of a rich man to the people mentioned in the will. To my loving wife Rose, who stood by me in the rough times as well as the good, I leave you the house and 2 million. To my daughter Jessica, who looked after me in illness and kept the business going, I leave you the yacht, the business, and 1 million. To my cousin Dan, who hated me, argued with me, and thought I would not remember him in my will, you were wrong. Hi, Dan.
Food for the soul, helping you to thrive. 5 minutes to renew your mind. Take 5.
You know, John, sometimes how we live our life certainly affects what people think of us,
Yeah.
doesn't it? Reputation is pretty important. The Bible speaks a lot about reputation. I know sometimes we get too caught up on what people think, but there is a thing called integrity where people have an opinion of us based on who we truly are.
In Proverbs chapter 22 and verse 1, it says, a good name is rather to be chosen than great riches.
Yeah. So it's important that we have a good name. That's something of value to us. Our reputation, being who we say we are. Years ago, there was a Japanese artist that spent a lot of time and money on a trip around the world to try to find his early inferior artwork so he could replace it with his newer, better paintings. He didn't want to be known as an amateur artist or have that reputation being around. He had spent a lot of time and money trying to track all that down to leave better paintings in their place. You know, it really is important that we think about the name that we leave. Because, John, as Christians, we're representing a big name.
Yes, Christ.
Exodus chapter 20, in the Ten Commandments, verse 7, thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain. For the Lord will not hold him guiltless that taketh his name in vain. That's, to me, not only using the name in vain, but taking it on yourself, saying, I'm a Christian, I'm a believer, I'm a Christ follower, but then not living like a Christ follower, claiming to be what you're not.
Acts chapter 11 and verse 26 says, and the disciples was called Christians first at Antioch because it was Christ-like.
Ecclesiastes 7 verse 1 says, a good name is better than precious ointment. 1 Peter 2 verse 12 says we're to have our conversation honest among the Gentiles, which would be the thought of the heathens, and the conversation being the manner of life that we live, the way we live.
I was at a funeral one time, Brother Craig, and a good preacher friend of mine that had passed away. I went up to his wife, and I said, your husband sure had a good name. And looking at all the crowd that came to pay the last respects, I just told her, you know, your husband had a good name.
There's a story, John, I came across that's told of a soldier in the army of Alexander the Great who was brought before the great world conqueror for court-martial. When the emperor had listened to the charges and the evidence, he turned to the soldier facing condemnation and said, what is your name? Alexander was the reply. Again, the emperor questioned, what is your name? The second time the soldier answered, Alexander. With a cry of rage, the emperor roared, I say, what is your name? And when the soldier answered for the third time, Alexander, the great general angrily replied, you say your name is Alexander, yet you are found guilty of your crime as charged, and now you must pay the penalty. Either you change your conduct or change your name. For no man can bear the name of Alexander, my name, and do the things that you have done. He's tarnishing his name.
Yeah.
I wonder if what we do, what we act, the way we say, the way we are, tarnishes the name of Christ as Christians. You know, there used to be, John, that the family name was something that you wanted to keep from being tarnished. You know, like you've got a good name, son. Don't tarnish that name.
Yeah.
Keep your reputation up. I don't know so much now that it's that way, sadly. But the name was so valuable back when.
Yeah.
That you matched who you said you were, and what you said matched who you really truly are.
And when someone's son would go to jail or do something bad, that was a slap in the face, not just to him, but to his name.
Tarnish the name.
Tarnish the name.
There's a story, John, about a young girl who ran in and said, Dad, you gave me some bad advice. I did? What? He said. Well, you told me to put my money in that big bank, and now that big bank is in trouble. What makes you say that? Said the father. Well, she said, they returned one of my checks with a note saying insufficient funds. Sometimes I guess we're kind of like that young girl, John. What we have in reality doesn't match what we say we have.
Yeah.
So, you know, if we're really speaking the name of Christ, if we're calling ourselves Christians, if we're saying that we're one of his, we need to make sure our light reflects that we're living in a godly manner as a Christian should. So how is your life today? Are you living the name you're professing?